What's the most obvious hint? The girl was interested in you, but you missed all the signs.
Story 1, my time to shine. I was in college in the early 90s and sitting in my dorm room alone. I was high as hell. The hot girl down the hall that I had a crush on and spoke to occasionally came to my room and asked if I would watch her dance routine. That was her final for her dance class. I was like sure and went to her room. The room was dark except for some red lighting. I sat on the couch and she put on Enigma https://www.youtube.com or watch v=4@9dxakmkw. This is a very clear sign that I missed completely. She began her dance. She was in a unitard and I was totally hot for this girl. She did what I would now consider a personal lap dance for me. I was petrified but lost over the whole thing. When this song was over, she came over to me about 2 inches from my face, sexy, smiling, and said, "How was that?" I looked at her and said, "That was really cool. You'll do great," and left. I left. I walked back to my room and left. Years later, I was driving my car to work, just daydreaming like you do, and that memory popped up. I would have kicked myself had I been able to. Story 2 looked up at me while clinging to my arm and stating, "I could definitely see myself dating someone like you." My brain was like, neat. Maybe one day I'll find a girl who wants to go out with me after all. Edit, as this has blown up a bit, I will elaborate because it gets better. She continued this rather affectionate clinging for about a week, constantly holding onto my arm and making puppy dog eyes up at me. After that week, my friend asked her out and she accepted. They dated for 2 weeks before they discovered that they were blood-related first cousins. Then they continued dating for another week. Story 3, my now wife gives me crap about this all the time, so it's safe to share here. Back when we were dating, it was a cold winter's night and she texted that she was cold and if there was anything I could do to warm her up, I offered to plastic seal her windows. Yeah, I totally missed that pitch. Story 4, at bar about 10 years ago. She and I kept making eye contact. Every time our eyes would lock, she would smile and play with her hair. I'd just nod. She eventually came up to the bar next to me when there was no one at the front of the bar. She bumped into me after getting her drink and spilled it on my shirt. She immediately grabbed napkins and kept apologizing profusely and using the napkins to dry my shirt. I kept telling her it was fine. She offered me her number and kept saying she owed me a shirt and to contact her tomorrow and we will go get one and maybe some lunch. I refused but took her number to be polite, never entered the number in on my phone. About 6 months went by. I found the napkin with her number in my jacket pocket from that night. I ended up texting her. Now we are married and I've never gotten this shirt replaced to this day. Edit, holy cow, guys, I did not expect this to blow up like it had. Thank you all for my first ever reward. As for being dense, we laugh about it and she still gives me crap about it to this day. This shirt, I've gotten plenty of others in the years we have been together, just not the one that got ruined that night. Either way started out as a failure to launch, but ended up launching anyways, just not when the button was pushed. Story 5. I was high as hell. My crush wanted to be my date and then I got high. She danced and tried to titillate, but then I was high. I looked at her and said, "You'll do great." And I know why? White man. Cause I got high, because I got high, because I got high. Story 6. We had been hanging out for a bit and she was talking about how nice her tits were. She then follows it with, "Maybe I should just show them to you." Oh no, you don't need to do that. Luckily, she really liked me and kept the press on for a few more weeks. Haha, we got married a few years later. Story 7. Back in '84. I was working at this cool department store and this was the shy girl I chatted up with. I talked to anyone, so it was no big deal on my end. I was also a movie nut, so I'd say, "Hey, have you seen this or that?" And she'd give me an exasperated look and say, No, I haven't. I need someone to go with." I'd be like, "Oh well, it's a good one." We've been married for 33 years. Story 8. Not quite on the same prompt as the post, but the most obvious to me years ago, just chatting with a coworker day to day, just everyday conversation. Then one day after another normal tit-tat, passing time, casual conversation, she heads out, turns around, grabs a pen and she writes her number on my arm and says, "Dude, call me," and walked away seemingly frustrated. I just kinda stood there with eyebrows raised, my brain turning gears, and it clicked, ooh. Story 9. I was just divorced and getting used to dating again. My game was very off, as I hadn't dated in over a decade. After, like my second or third after the divorce, she texted me. I just played with myself the whole drive home thinking of you. My response: "Sounds like fun, good night." We did not go on another date. Story 10. I was invited to her apartment to study on a Saturday night. After a little she closed her door. We were on her bed and we studied a little more until I left. Story 11. We got married a few years later. Have you seen them yet? Story 12. This was when I just started high school and she was one of the first truly beautiful girls I had in my life and didn't really know the standard. She added me on Snapchat. The conversation slowly became more and more flirty. I didn't take the bait and just assumed attractive girls are flirty. So then she started sending more revealing pictures over a snap, so that I'd get the point over these photos. I just kept our casual conversation going as if nothing was happening. This escalated until she sent me a topless photo with one hand barely covering her nipples as she sucked on a popsicle. I decided that attractive girls probably just send attractive photos, and I kept the casual conversation going because I didn't want to presume she gave up after that. Story 13. As I played the organ, she would turn pages for me and brush her body against my back while moving from right to left behind the organ bench to grab the next page. I thought she was robbing me due to tight quarters between my organ and the choir loft railing. Story 14. Girl brought me upstairs, took off her clothes, and her friend was already in bed in her underwear too. I was on a ton of fake acid and asked where the weed was at and then walked out. Story 15. I could definitely see myself dating someone like you. Once bitten, twice shy. The last time I took that gamble it didn't end well, and I'm sure I am not the only one. Story 16. Is there anything else you could do for me? Well, yeah, I could probably help install a new furnace. Story 17. I was in a Starbucks in Argentina and the girl taking my order asked my name to write on the cup. She didn't understand what I said, and when I picked the cup up, it said Diego, which isn't my name. Later that night I was chatting with a cute 20-something girl in the bar and I retold that story, and she looked at me with sultry eyes, her top slightly undone, and said something like, what would Diego do with me tonight that wouldn't? It caught me completely off guard and I said something stupid in return. It was like being in the final minutes of the Super Bowl, being tossed a game-winning ball only to fumble it in the end zone on live TV. I've lived with that regret a long time, haha. What could have been? Story 18. And dents even nowadays, but holy crap, you are a diamond-encrusted plate of tungsten steel armor. I hope you've learned from hindsight, at the very least. Story 19. TBH. This sounds like a dodged bullet.